I'm making this as a response to V. Marie's video on colorism in the black community, especially towards women. She seems to believe that where this derives from men and the choices that they make and their perceptions over a mate choice. And I think that it's a little misguided for two reasons. It's not actually coming from men. It's not actually shaped by men. It's actually shaped by women. Dale Jones, a long time ago, said that women transfer culture to their children. And I believe it's true because I've seen it personally in my own life. I've seen it with my mother and how they want to determine hair and skin color. That's the first thing they look for. Then I saw it with my ex and our children. You know, even her mother talked about I was too dark for her to mate with because we were both brown people, and she needed a lighter person to mate with so that her children would be lighter and have better hair. Even the difference between my first daughter and my second daughter. My ex was so upset because it appeared that my second daughter was going to be as dark as she was. And, you know, she's a dark chocolate. They were dark people, instead of more like my other daughter, which has more of a rosy complexion and a little bit lighter. And she was definitely afraid that my daughter would turn out to be, as she did turn out to be, a very dark little chocolate girl, which was fine with me. But to get into it, why that actually is, you have to understand what a female's role is in biology and what she's trying to do. At her essence, at her core, what a female is trying to do is give her offspring a material advantage in whatever environment that she's in. So if you look at some parts of Africa where they will fatten up the women and not let her work because they want a better mate choice, it's completely different from America where they want skinny women. There's all different kinds of mate choices, but her job is, as a female, to give her offspring a material advantage. And since we live in a white-dominated Western society, what's going to be the most advantageous for that particular child is to be lighter, or as close to white as possible, have blue or green eyes, and have what women call good hair, which is straight, fine hair, as opposed to the kinky hair that most black people are born with. And this starts very early. But you don't see the fathers, who don't really transfer culture because the mother is the first teacher for the first 5 years anyway, worried about the little girl's hair and what grade it is. It's the mother that's worried about it. And if the child doesn't come out with the quote-unquote proper grade of hair the first 3 or 4 years, especially for little girls, first 3 or 4 years, the mother's trying to train the hair to act a certain way. And I've seen that on more than a few occasions, not only with my sisters, but with mothers of friends, and how they did their particular daughters, and you know, the way they comb the hair and stuff that they put on it, because they're trying to get their hair to look a certain way. Why? Because if the hair looks a certain way, it gives them a material advantage, a material status in society. You know, if you go to the grocery store, or you go even hang out at the hamburger stand, and say there's a Hispanic or there's some other light-skinned guy with what they call curly or wavy hair, women will flock to him because first thing they said, I want my baby to have hair just like that, or I want my baby to have eyes just like that. You know, I have a son who has curly hair. You know, he has naturally curly hair. And I can't tell you the number of women that want to sleep with him, even though he's in his mid-20s, want to sleep with him because they want their child to have curly hair like he does. So men's choices are not necessarily determined by them. It's being bestowed to them by their mothers. And I'll give you a perfect example. A perfect example. I don't know about the younger women. When I was coming up, and I'm sure it's probably still true, if a little boy, that's 10 or less, he likes a little girl and her mother is there, and she doesn't want her daughter, engaging with the little boys, first thing she'll ask, why are you looking at them nappy-headed boys? To infer that their hair is no good. And if they see a boy with curly hair, a grade of hair that they like, all of a sudden there's a difference. All of a sudden that boy is cute. I see it with my grandson. My grandson has long curly hair. And the first thing they notice about him is not how big he is or what his other features is like, is that he has long curly hair, which he got from my daughter. And to blame this choice or this idea of an ideal looking mate on men is unfair, because it doesn't come from that. It comes from the female, because the cause is the white Western society, and the female is trying to adapt to it. That's why she wears the weaves. That's why she wears the color contacts. That's why she wears a Western dress. Women are into fashion because they're trying to fit their appearance to match the environment that they're in. Another example, in West Africa, in Ghana, to give the children a material advantage in Western culture, Ghanaian women are willing to pay white men to inseminate them, or even to acquire their sperm, so that they can have what they call half-caste children. Why? Because half-caste children are seen as superior in Western culture, or seen to have an advantage in Western culture. They're seen as having advantages in culture, but also in business. And when they apply to go to Europe or to go to America, they're the ones that are taken first. So you can see how the environment shapes the culture of the women that are involved, and how they select a mate, or how they select material for their offspring to have. I've been listening to what's going on in Central and South America, and what they call the gringo advantage. Because gringos, or white men, people are seen as first world and infer wealth or infer a material advantage. The native population wants to mate with them. The native women want to mate with them so that their children can have clear eyes, or claro eyes, or wavy hair, even though their dark eyes and their hair are just fine. But to have them, it gives their offspring a material advantage. They get better choice in schools. They get better choice in businesses. They become entertainers. They become models. There's a whole host of things that they get from having their blood mixed with gringo blood. So you see, it is the female that transmits a culture to the society, and not the other way around. And lastly, what I'd like to say is that out of all the people in the world, all the men in the world, the men with the widest range of taste, the widest range of what they call an acceptable mate, or the widest range of what we call beautiful, are the African American male. If you look at the African American male's taste, you can't say what a perfect 10 would be for an African American male. She could be tall and thin. She could be 5 foot and thick. She could be chunky. She could be dark skinned, or she could be light skinned. She could have green eyes, or she could have brown eyes. She can have natural hair. She can have locks, or she can have long, straight hair. We have the widest range of mate choice. If you look at what a perfect 10 for a Caucasian male is, she's between 5'1" and 5'7". She's no bigger than a size 8, and she's got to have long hair. They don't like women with short hair. They'll say that in a heartbeat. They prefer her with blue or green eyes, light blue or green eyes. They even, have a certain breast size that they like. If you add it all up, it's a very narrow range of what they like, and they don't particularly like aggressive women. She has to be what they quote unquote feminine. She has to be submissive. She has to be on the quiet side. That doesn't apply to African American men. Our women are aggressive. I mean, we can't deny that. Our women are probably the most aggressive probably on the planet. They're the boldest on the planet, probably out of necessity, but it's accepted by African American men. A lot of things that the Caucasians or the white dominant society wouldn't consider feminine is considered normal for African American men. So, when African American women talk about how wrong our choice is, or how black men discriminate, that's probably not true. That's probably not true. You don't see a whole lot of light-skinned babies walking around. You have a very, very broad choice of mates as far as African American men are concerned. If you look at the woman Lupita Nyong'o from 12 Years a Slave, she's extremely dark. She's thin, and she has short hair, and she's considered beautiful by black men. It's something that the Caucasians, that's not appealing to them. For American Caucasian, now she'd be exotic, but that's not the norm that they would want out of a white woman. But it's perfectly acceptable for black men to like her, or for black men to think that she's beautiful. That's not out of the ordinary. Some of our men complain that our standards are probably too low, that we tend to like overweight women. We call them thick, and we probably need to tighten up our standards. That's something that has been a complaint among the manosphere as far as African American men are concerned, that our standards are probably too loose. So to complain about the choice that African American men have as far as color, as far as size, as far as hair, is probably not true. It's probably more of a myth that's been spread, and it's probably a reflection of how African American women feel about themselves. To be honest, African American women have very low esteem. Very low esteem. It comes from the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow that we've endured as part of being the bottom of the caste system in America. On the flip side, African American men have low self-worth. So we don't figure we deserve that status, or that perfect woman that the Caucasian feels that he deserves. A size 16 and up, they don't get much play in the Caucasian world, in the white world. But, a size 16 is perfectly fine for an African American male, because partially because he's been beat down and he doesn't figure he's worth more than that. So she could be a size 24, and it's not going to matter to him. That's perfectly fine to him. That's perfectly acceptable to him, because he doesn't feel he deserves that any better. So to beat down the African American men, and to take clips or just little snippets of videos because they're describing what their choice is wrong. I looked at those 4 videos, and those snippets are not representative of what black men are talking about. They really aren't. So the thing is, as far as mate choice, as far as looks and that stuff that's concerned, African American women really have to start looking at themselves, and it really goes back to their mother. Especially if you talk about hair and skin color, that goes back to their mother. I've seen that. On more than a few occasions. I've already given personal examples of how I've seen it. If African American women really think about it, their first encounters with hair was well before they ever laid eyes on a white man. Their mother's talking about the hair. They're talking about how to press the hair. They talk about the naps in the back in the kitchen. The billions and billions of dollars that African American women spend on their hair and their looks, or their quote unquote crown. And what they do, first thing they do is they blame it on the men, and it's not true. It is not true. So I think we should re-examine that, and we should stick to facts and stop with the finger pointing and get to the root problem of it, because that's what's setting us back. Like Dr. Umar Johnson said, instead of pointing fingers at each other, the first white man you need to kill is the one that exists inside you, because that's where it lies. It's not self-hatred, but it's indoctrination and it's training. And we need to go back to the biology of this system and why it exists, and why these symptoms that V. Marie pointed out exist in us as a culture, and who spreads what the vectors for this particular disease actually is, which we call colorism, which we call hairism, which we call integrationalism.